Hey, what's up, studs? Good all here, Bulls on Wall Street. Nice little bounce day in the markets across the board. You know, we had a oversold bounce in the QQQs, and that was, it could have been a relief bounce, but we'll see. You know, we don't know if it's something more or less yet, but it's definitely something that, you know, we needed to see. I was thinking we might pull back into the 50-day moving average, but the market very rarely does exactly what you want. You can still see we're a little bit oversold with the 17 stochastics, and so we have a little bit of room here before some decisions need to be made. So I would mark out on your levels, right? 485 to 490. Start watching the price action on a short-term basis around that zone and see how the market starts to act around those, and look for clues to see if we're starting to reverse or if we're actually going to push through and remount and then maybe, you know, start taking this out. In general, what we have seen is in the past, right? What we have seen in the past is these kind of, right, 3-4 day pullbacks have been getting bought, you know, 4 or 5 day pullbacks even better. And so we do have, right, a lot of evidence that that's happening, but we are late in the cycle, and so something to just kind of keep into the back of your head. The other thing is that I thought was really, really positive was that the IWM bounced today, and this is what you really want to see. Like, the IWM had 3 down days. When you have a new uptrend or a new breakout, 3 down days is usually your classic pullback setup, right? And so you pulled back into the 9 and you bounced, and you can even see at a weak open, and that's really what you want. Like, you gapped up, you dumped off, and then, right, really ramped it. And that's what, you know, that's the action I want to see, right? That's the action that tells me that this move actually may have the ability to stick. And so across the board, I thought that the indexes looked pretty good. And let's see, you know, if we're just respecting trends, then, you know, we have this breakout, pull back to the 9, we should see 225. And if we take out that 225 zone, you know, 225, 226 zone, then, you know, the IWM is, you know, in play till the rest of the year with a, you know, target back up into these highs, you know, and so something to be mindful of. Now, there are some boogeymans that we'll have to just be aware of, and the couple boogeymans that we need to do is that, you know, if the Federal Reserve does decide to cut interest rates, we have to be prepared that this may, you know, it could be a sell the news event, meaning that everybody and their uncle and their grandma has been waiting for the market to cut rates, right, and the Fed to cut rates. But we've been really rising for a long period of time in anticipation of that anyways. And so we do have to be careful if, you know, if and when the Fed comes out, if they do a July rate cut, you know, do we get a sell the news event? That first couple days will be really, really important. It's not necessarily the case, but it just kind of, my spidey senses tingle off a little bit when we get too hot going into something, you know, and so something to just kind of keep mind of. Now, let's talk about the price action today, because there were a lot of good stocks. If you were just looking at the breakouts today, right, the big gainers, all this kind of stuff, what you would see is some really, really nice heat. And so I kept the list pretty short, trying to fill it with some new names so that, you know, we're not recycling some of the same stuff. But I think we want to be in some of these IWM stocks. 17% move in CGC today, gap up, right, pull back into the bone zone, pull off the VWAPs. That's what you want to see. You want to see this kind of really good day trading action, taking out the 50-day moving average. You know, we've got upside on this. The float's, you know, a lot smaller than what it's listed on TC2000 because you had a 1 to 10 split, so it's about 50 million probably, or 53 million shares, and you have pretty good volume on it. ACB also has a little bit of a flag. Now, look, pot stocks, they stink. You know, they probably run up for a few days and then just roll back over, but for now, it's just, you know, if the IWM gets hot, then these things are going to start to happen, and so we want to be participating in them. IRBT, love this one. So look, this thing used to be 40, 50, 60, 70, $200, right? And they had that deal with Amazon that got blown off. Now, you started to see, right, this kind of bottoming push, pull back into the 9. So it looks exactly like, right, the IWM. And you've got tremendous upside in this. If you take out this 1180s, right, you have room into the 14 spot. And if it does that, like say the IWM just keeps going and going, and you kind of take out this zone. Dude, it's 200-day moving average not till 19. You're going to have yourself a little hootenanny over there. NVAX, right after that big kind of, I'd call this like a compression breakout where you have like a little bit of a grinder and then the range just gets so narrow and then boom, you come in and pop through. And this is, right here, I mean, that's 40-50% move right there. Now you're pulling back into support. Nice 3-day pullback, just like the IWM. That's what you want to see. Like the location on this too. Obviously, this is a turd company. I mean, the turdiest of turds it is. But sometimes you got to get stinky fingers, right? And we're into that. Cores, the way some of these Bitcoin stocks were going, breakout, pull back and retest. Let's see if this has got some juice on it. NVIDIA had some upgrades today and some other PRs out. Let's see. This looks a little bit like the NASDAQ. What we want to see is like how we react around here. If we get rejected and we come back and retest the 50, that'll put some pressure on the market. If we just act like this zone and this gap here doesn't exist and you just knife through and start working your way, back into, right, the 130s, then, that's probably a bullish sign for the QQQs. HIMS, right? If IWM stocks are going, then, I want to be a part of this one. It's sitting at the 50-day moving average. They did have some type of news out with the FTC, I believe, and they were looking into their business or marketing practices, something along that end. And they did say they put out a cross PR saying they're going to comply. So that could be, maybe something to keep an eye on because there was a little bit extra selling on the pullback. So, be careful on this, but the location is great. TTD, after the pullback to the 50, you remounted the 9. This looks like it's got a little bit of a break. I don't mind all these squiggles that I've got on this thing. You got room to go on this. If you can break it out, it looks like it's leading the way here. Cypher. So you got the breakout that came out over 6, got the 8, pulled right back into it, right? You got the 9 EMA, and then you're testing that price support. That's a really, really good spot. Take a look at that bad boy. And then I like this lemonade, right? The move to 25, come back into the 9. Trades a little bit thin, but I think it's in a good spot. And out of the big caps, I think the one that I like the most is this Adobe, right? Now, this is an AI and software play, so make sure you got sector momentum that's running with it. But you got this push, and then this nice grind back. If you kind of break out of this trend line and you kind of close over these EMAs, I think that's going to be a really good spot. And it might even turn into a swing. And this is an earnings winner, right? This move from here to here is on earnings. Then you have a subsequent move. Let's see if big caps pick up. Then this is right in the sweet spot of what we really want to be. What we really want to be looking at. I'm liking it. I'm liking it. Hot damn. Now, CLBT, this one is an IPO stock, all right? So you get an IPO stock and you're right at IPO highs. Right at IPO highs. And so that's going to be, I think, dude, that's something to really keep an eye on, right? So we want to be watching this one. When you get stocks that break out of this stuff and you get this nice IPO breakout, dude, you're in for a little bit of a hootenanny. So you got breakout, pullback, and you're coming through this thing. Dudes, muy buenos is the place to be. Damn, that's nice right there. So let's see how this reacts. It's a little bit thin, but it did about 6 million shares the other day, so I think it's got a chance. Got good enough range on this. I want to see this thing break out, and then we'll see what it wants to do. And then all crowd, obviously you've been, but down 150 points. If this gaps down tomorrow, we can get this thing into this kind of zone of love here. 250, close to it. I think, and that's where a lot of this speed up happened over here. But if we can get into this, it's just a nice overall. That's just a nice overall spot, I think. For a little bit of a rubber band long, the 9 EMAs at 337. But even, like if we're just playing this for the dead cat bounce to say 290, That's some good cheese right there, man. So let's get into that one. Mara's still sitting on the 9. It had a nice rounding pattern here and a good push. Mara tends to do that where it dumps off, rounds and goes. But as long as it's holding this 9 and this previous day's lows, I think this is bullish. And we want to be trying to find a way to get into this bad boy. And then I'm watching this sell H here. You know, you've got a lot of support into the zone. And, you know, it was $100. Now you're coming back. So look, it's broken below the lower Bollinger Band. You got 13 stochastics. Your 9 EMA is not till 52. A gap down in this thing, I think, triggers a rubber band long. And I'd play for a gap fill. And then if it keeps going, you know, it keeps going. That could trigger. I don't know if it would trigger the bottom per se, but it would trigger at least a nice kind of $10 pop, maybe a little bit more, especially in this market if the market keeps going. So something to keep in mind of. In terms of, you know, earnings, you know, if you're looking, we've got tomorrow, before the market, ACI, West, Bank, CB, junk, GE, GM might be something, IRDM might be something. These are all junk, boring. This PII is a history of making moves. Also, Spot does. Also, in aftermarket, you got some other ones. But the thing is, you know, you never know. So if you get a hot earnings or some stock that surprises, it's going to do whatever it's going to do. One of the mistakes I often make in earnings season is I get so like into, oh, this stock doesn't do anything. Oh, this is a, you know, cigarette stock, or this is a, you know, jerk off stock, or whatever it might be. And you put these labels on something like, oh, this is a retail stock. You know, I do this a lot with retail stocks, you know, because I've always been biased against retail. And then they explode, right? And you're like, fudge. Like, what? Dang. Why do I do that, right? You know, very similar like in the move in gold this year. Gold has stunk the trade for so many years, and now all of a sudden, right, this year, like it picked up steam, right? But in my head, I'm like, man, gold stinks to trade. And so these are things to just kind of be mindful of as you're going. You know, keep an eye on some of this stuff. If you need any help with anything, you got any questions, leave me a comment, give me some, you know, whatever you need, I'll get it done for you. I love you guys. Peace.